work together, and one of those priorities is universal pharmacare. We believe it has to be public and single payer that covers all Canadians. I also indicated that I would like to see support on dental care, that an openness to dental care. During the campaign, we saw many Canadians who are worried about being able to access dentist or dental care. We're worried and we're struggling with access, and our national dental care program that we pitched was something that Canadians really liked. And I indicated that's something important to me to see openness towards a national dental care program. In addition, I continue to put pressure on the fact that we should be dropping, the government should be dropping the appeal on First Nations or Indigenous kids who were discriminated and didn't receive equal funding. And that's something that's very important, and I think it would be a sign of the right step, the right thing to do to respect Indigenous kids and First Nations. In addition, we talked about a number of other important priorities around affordability, around housing, around real action on the climate crisis. And that means tougher targets, but also means making sure we create jobs. There's a lot of Canadians that feel ignored, they feel like they've been forgotten. They need to know that we are going to make sure that we invest and create jobs in communities that are hard hit, that have faced a lot of uncertainty because of commodity prices that are fluctuating and volatility in the global markets. So those are some of the key priorities that I laid out. The same priorities that we touched on during the campaign remain our priorities. That's ensuring that we remove the interest off of student loans at the federal level, making sure that we take on the high cost of cell phone and internet services, and that means making sure we put in place some real measures. And what we've called for are price caps and mandating unlimited data. And those are two real clear steps that we can take. For affordable housing, we want to see real investments, building more affordable units, making it easier for people to be able to find a place to call home. That's something that's a priority, and we want to continue to push hard on that. I'm hopeful after the meeting that there's an opportunity for us to work together to deliver for Canadians. I know that when it comes down to it, the Liberal government and Mr. Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau, has a choice. He can work with the Conservatives, who perhaps he could find a way to work forward and build forward with Conservatives, or he could seek our support. And to seek our support, it's going to mean that there's some real concrete steps that make people's lives better. And we know what people are worried about. They're worried about their health. They're worried about healthcare. They want to see some real steps in making sure people's lives are better, and that's what we're going to deliver for Canadians. Donc, dans cette rencontre avec le Premier Ministre,
with the Prime Minister, I was able to see an opening that we have trust. That makes me confident that we can work together, and it's important for us that we can debate and present our options. The Liberal government has the opportunity to work with Conservatives. It's their choice, or they can work with us. And if they want to work with us, we need some concrete actions to improve the quality of life, to have investment in healthcare, and for us, pharmacare and universal and public pharmacare is important. But if there's an opening for national dental care, that's something I want to see in the commitments of the government. Furthermore, we want to see concrete actions, concrete commitment to face the climatic change. And that's so important. It means to cancel grants for the oil industry and also a commitment to create jobs, because we have many people who are facing precarious situations due to the volatility in the global markets, and we need to have an approach that gives opportunity for jobs that are facing those precarious situations due to the volatility in life. So I believe that there is an opening to work together and an openness to do so, and I'll see what will happen in the future, but I am ready to work with them and work together, and we have an opportunity to make some gains for Canadians.
If you had to pick one item, what would it be? Because you can't get everything you want.
Well, I put out three really kind of clear things that touch on what Canadians really have told me are important to them, and that's healthcare, which means a national universal pharmacare, but also a national dental care program. Those are two really important things on healthcare. In addition, concrete action on the climate crisis. That's something really important, but also making sure we create jobs while we're fighting the climate crisis so that people don't feel left behind. That's really important. And then finally, for Indigenous justice, basic things like clean drinking water and also ending the appeal. Those are some of the starting points that I've laid out, and I'm looking to see some indication from the government that they're willing to work with us on that. I'll give one follow-up here, and then we'll go to French, and then we'll come to you.
If he misses, which one of those, if he missed it, would trigger an election for you?
Well, we want to see that there's an openness to work with us, and that's going to mean some signaling of that. And I'm looking forward to seeing from Mr. Trudeau a willingness to work with us, and that means I want to see that he's willing to work on pharmacare that's universal and public. I want to see openness to dental care, and I want to see a commitment to fighting the climate crisis in a meaningful way. Those are some of the things I'm looking to see so that Canadians can have confidence that the Liberal government's not going to go down a path of trying to find support from the Conservatives, but instead they're going to willing to work with us to deliver something that's going to make people's lives better.
Interesting, you said in English and in French that Mr. Trudeau's choice is to associate with Conservatives or to work with us. You seem to forget that the Bloc Québécois is the second party of opposition. They have more seats than you. Are you not denying the fact that you don't have as much influence that you think you have? In fact, Mr. Blanchet said it clearly. If Mr. Trudeau wants to do something that doesn't help Quebec, he can't count on him to support him. So, if Mr. Trudeau wants to do something national and want to do a public and universal pharmacare or dental care or concrete actions that are national, they need to work with a national party. Means with us or with the Conservatives. The options are clear, and the choice is clear. It is a Liberal government to make a choice, and it's up to Mr. Trudeau to make that choice. Well, not really. Not really. I mean, they've... No, thank you. Really, they only need the support of the Bloc to stay in power. The Bloc could very well support universal pharmacare if they have a right for the Quebec to opt out, and they don't need you to stay in government. That's the issue here. For me, if the government wants to do something that is national, no, they can't govern without you. If the government wants to do something national to help all Canadians, it is clear that there are two options. Now, for us, if they want to work with us to do things, progressive things for Canada, it is us that they can work with. And I'm ready to work with them if they show an openness. Have you asked any deadlines? Were you reassured by a conversation with Mr. Trudeau, and will you vote for the Trump speech? We'll wait and see. We will have debate on that speech, and we haven't made up our mind if we'll support it or not, because we haven't heard any content or about the content of this debate. Any deadlines on, did you require any deadlines on pharmacare and dental care? Yes, exactly. To have a clear commitment, we need to have dates. And that's exactly what I required in the meeting and asked him, or demanded, that we need to see dates, clear dates, in order to have the trust that the government will really do something, really do concrete actions to put forth universal pharmacare and public pharmacare.
From the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, did he give you any reason to think you share common ground on that?
So can you repeat the question?
What did Mr. Trudeau tell you about the appeal of the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal decision, and did he give you any reason to think you share common ground on that?
Right now, no. I've made it clear that what I'm asking for is a dropping of the appeal, that Indigenous kids should not be taken to court. He did not make a commitment at this point to drop the appeal. It's something that I would like to see happen. He hasn't closed the door on that. And so I'm going to continue to put pressure to say it really makes sense in this case to drop the appeal. We've got Indigenous kids who have received less funding. There's been deaths as a result. It just makes sense to drop the appeal. And I call them...
You said you have reason to be hopeful if you're referring to the fact that he's not looking at dropping the appeal, for example. In what concrete terms are you hopeful?
Oh, he didn't close the door. I said that that's something that I've been asking for, and I'm going to be very firm on that I believe the appeal should be dropped. He didn't close the door on dropping the appeal. So that to me is a sign of openness. And I also made it really clear that for me, universal pharmacare has to be public, and I want to see national dental care and openness to that. And he indicated an openness, and we'll have to wait and see exactly what he shows and when he speaks on these issues. But those are some concrete things that I've asked for and that I've seen at least a willingness to listen so far, as well as on concrete action on the climate crisis. He's indicated, again, openness. I'm going to keep on pushing for some real results, but those are things he said won't follow.
How much power do you really hold in this parliament with 24 seats? You're saying you may vote against the throne speech. I know you don't have any red lines or lines in the sand, whatever the line is, but does it really matter if you don't vote for the throne speech?
Well, what I want to make really clear is that the Liberal government has to work with parties to pass bills. There's no question about that. Now, if they want to pass something national that benefits all Canadians, they've got really two options for a national party. They can choose to work with the Conservatives. That's a choice that they can make. Or they can work with us. If they want to pass a bill, they need to work with a party. If they want to pass a bill that's progressive, that puts in place something that's national, that's going to benefit all Canadians, they have to work with New Democrats. And I'm prepared to work with, but Mr. Blanchet's made it really clear that he is not interested in working on national programs that benefit all Canadians. That's not his goal. That's not his party's goal. And frankly, that's not his job. His job isn't to do that. He was elected in Quebec for Quebecers, and that's fine. But if Mr. Trudeau wants to pass something that's national, and wants to pass something that's national and progressive that benefits all Canadians, he's got really just two choices. He can work with us or the Conservatives.
But isn't it in your best interest to work with the Liberals as well? You lost a third of your caucus, you've got no money, and like a third of your candidates aren't getting their deposits back. So you're saying they have a choice to work with you, but isn't it in your political best interest as a party to make this parliament last and find ways to work with the Liberals? Because I know you're happy with your result, but you lost a third of your caucus.
No, not at all. I don't accept that frame at all. I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm here for the 3 million Canadians that voted for New Democrats, and they want us to fight for a better future for them, and I'm going to fight for them. I have no interest in blindly working with the Liberals. If they want to deliver on real things that help Canadians out, yes, absolutely, we're going to work together. Do Canadians want us to be able to be constructive? Yes, I want to be constructive. But by no means does that mean I'm beholden in any way to working with the Liberals. I have a job, which is to fight for Canadians. And that means fighting for better healthcare, fighting for better housing, fighting for Indigenous communities. I'm going to do that. I'm not worried about having to do something because of any political exigency. I want to do this because it matters to people, and I'm ready to do that.
Did Trans Mountain come up in your discussions?
He knows, and he said very clearly, I know that you've been opposed and you'll continue to be opposed. That might be something that we disagree on, but I understand that's your position.
Does your support of them going forward hinge at all on their decisions they make around Trans Mountain?
Well, I've made it really clear that it's something that I've opposed in the past. I'm going to continue to oppose, and Mr. Trudeau was very clear to understand that that was my position.
Would you say Mr. Singh, at what point do you sit down and realize that maybe you don't hold as much power as you think in this parliament, and are you just going to sit there and be the agitator now and content with that?
I want to deliver for Canadians, and so my goal is this.
If you don't have the numbers, and Mr. Trudeau does have other options to work with.
It's really clear. If Mr. Trudeau wants to deliver something like universal pharmacare, the Conservatives don't care about universal pharmacare. The Bloc doesn't have an interest in delivering a plan that's going to help out Canadians across the country. They haven't indicated that. They haven't talked about that. That hasn't been a part of their program. For me, it's really clear. I want to deliver a universal pharmacare program that helps all Canadians. If Mr. Trudeau has any interest in doing that, he's going to have to work with me to do it. And if he's going to work with me, it's going to be universal, it's going to be public. If he wants to move on something like national dental care, the Conservatives don't care about that. It's not something that the Bloc has indicated as in anything in their platform as something that they're interested in. If he wants to deliver on something that a lot of Canadians have said is important to them, New Democrats are the option for them. On a host of issues, if the Liberal government wants to move forward, they need to work with somebody. It's going to be us if it's a progressive thing that's national, that's going to benefit all Canadians.
But he can work with the Bloc. Like, you've heard this a number of times. The Bloc is not against things that benefit the rest of Canada if it benefits Quebec.
They made it clear that's not their priority, though. It's my priority. My priority is to do things that benefit all Canadians. It's not the Bloc's priority. They're not a national. They're not a national party. They're not a national party. If they want to do something that's national, if they want to develop something that's going to benefit all Canadians, it's us.
That's not actually how Parliament works, Mr. Singh, though.
Well,
If he gets
It's just the
support-
reality. You don't have to accept the reality, but that's what it is.
Well, actually, it's not. If they have support from 30 or so MPs from the Bloc, they can go ahead with whatever they want. And no one says that the Bloc would oppose any of your priorities. So I understand that your pitch is that you're the only National Progressive Party, but in reality...
That's just a fact, though, right?
Yeah, but in reality, they don't need you. You seem to not want to recognize that.
Well, they can do whatever they want. I'm saying if they want to deliver something that's national and progressive, the Conservatives are not going to be the option. If they want to deliver something that's going to help Canadians out across this country, and it talks about universal pharmacare or national dental care, we're the only party that are talking about that. We're the only people that have put forward that as a priority. So if the Liberals want to do that, obviously they're going to have to make a choice. I'm hoping that they're prepared to work with us.
Are you saying that Mr. Blanchet has said that he'd like to see Parliament last till the next scheduled election 4 years from now, right? So that's 32 seats saying, hey, we want 4 years of this minority parliament. Does that at all hinge your plans or ruin your plans?
I'm just fighting for Canadians. And I've got some really clear priorities that I want to deliver on. Some really important things that matter to me and matter to Canadians. People have told me that they want to see some help when it comes to their health care. They told me that they're worried about the fact that so many people can't afford medication in our country, a country as rich as ours that has a national universal medication or has a universal healthcare system that doesn't include medication. That's something that's a problem. I want to deliver on that. I want to fight for that. I want to make sure that people have access to dental care. It's something really important to me. It's something really important to Canadians. I've met so many people that tell me that they can't afford to see a dentist and they're worried about that. I want to deliver on that. I'm just going to fight for Canadians. Whatever opportunity I have to fight for Canadians, I'm going to do that. In this Parliament, I'm going to use whatever tools I have, whatever opportunity I have to deliver for Canadians. What the Liberal government does or doesn't do, it's up to them. But I'm going to fight for people.
Can you be more specific what you mean by meaningful action on climate change? Does that mean trying to do away with some of these industrial, exemptions, let's say? Like, did you bring up any specific measures with Mr. Trudeau? The pipeline, exemptions, that sort of stuff that you think is more meaningful than the plan they already have in place?
Yeah, so one is fossil fuel subsidies. There are still massive amounts of subsidies. Some target them in the range of billions of dollars, $3 billion or more. They're hard to figure out in terms of exactly where they are. That's one thing that I want to see some concrete movement on ending all those subsidies, and we'll propose some specifics in the future. In addition, we want to see tougher targets. We want to see clearer and stronger targets so that we can actually see reduction in emissions. And then finally, we want to see accountability mechanisms so that the targets that are set aren't just set and then missed altogether. We want to see accountability. I proposed an example in the UK. They've got really clear accountability mechanisms that make sure that a government can't just set a target and then move on. They actually have to set it and achieve it. And if they don't, there's a repercussion. And finally, we've got to create jobs. And so those are some of the priorities I have with fighting the climate crisis. We've got to create jobs so people aren't left behind.
Vous avez parlé de dates tantôt sur l'assurance médicaments, l'assurance dentaire, et le programme pour le... Est-ce que vous en avez des dates? Est-ce que vous pouvez nous les
Do
donner?
you have dates? Can you share with us those dates? What we will do for our first bill is a framework for regarding how we can go forth with national universal pharmacare. And in that framework, we will share what are the exact dates we want to see, and what we've proposed during the electoral campaign is how to deliver within a year this pharmacare, and until up to 2020. I think it's something that we can do, and we will require the government to do it as early as possible, because people cannot wait for action more than now. If they do not commit to that date, will you still support them in their current speech? We will have this speech, and we will make a decision after, once we hear that speech. But it's so important for us to have dates, and also ask to have a meeting with the health minister in every province, and a meeting with those ministers can show a commitment, a real commitment to go forth. And what I want to see is our commitments, concrete commitments, and actions that are concrete on the issues that are important for people.
Say, yeah, sure, you can have, well, I'll call the health ministers together. Did he give you any affirmative on that?
He understood that I want to see some clear timelines, and I'll leave it with the Prime Minister to make a decision on what he's going to do. But I made it clear for me, I want to see some concrete action. I want to see some clear dates and some timelines. That to me would show a real commitment, and that's what I've said.
And if you
On the
don't
throne
see
speech, I
that,
know you're still talking about whether or not to support the throne speech. If it does come down to your party, though, are you realistically in any position to trigger an election right now?
For me, I mean, we know that the government's going to need our support. At some level, if they want to pass bills that are national, they're going to need our support. And I want to make it clear that they can't just expect us to support unless they do things that show a commitment to deliver for Canadians. So I know that in this Parliament, they're going to need to work with us. I know that they're going to have opportunities that they're going to need New Democrats to vote for a bill. I want to make it clear that that's not going to come for free. That's going to come with clear commitments to doing something that's going to benefit Canadians' lives.
But is the NDP in any shape to go back onto into a campaign right now?
I'm ready. I'm ready anytime.
So it's still possible you could vote against the throne speech?
Yes.
okay, so what I'm trying to sort out here,
Sure.
if he mentions pharmacare in the throne speech, but nothing about the year deadline that you want it within a year. If he just says, we're committed to pharmacare, does that mean we're going to the polls? We're on an election campaign?
Well, my plan is not to find ways to make this problem not work. I'm not trying to set up a scenario where we don't move ahead. I want to find ways where we move forward constructively. And for me, that means setting up some clear guidelines. And those guidelines are a commitment to a universal public system for pharmacare. That means some timelines. I'm willing to be able to negotiate and talk about those, but I want to see some commitments that are real. I want to see an openness to dental care. I know Canadians want that. I know it was wildly popular when we reached out, and we see some public opinion polling on that. We know that people want that. They need it. And so I want to see some real commitments. And if I see those real commitments and an openness to work together, I'm ready to work together.
Does it have to be in the throne speech? Does it have to be in the throne speech, or could it be in the first 6 months? Like, do you want to have to see everything in the throne speech?
No, we can't. We're not going to see everything in the throne speech. I don't expect that's realistic. But I want to see some openness, and I want to see some commitments that show me that there is a willingness to work on these things that matter to Canadians.
Sur Trans Mountain en français, parce qu'on ne vous a pas entendu en français, vous avez dit
On
pendant
Trans
la campagne, vous
Mountain,
avez
you said during the
dit
campaign
que
that,
contre,
and
que
you
vous allez
repeated it, that you're
continuer d'être
against
contre
it, and you will
Trans
continue to be against
Est-ce que
Trans
cela
Mountain.
dit, c'est
That said,
conditionnel à tout appui
is
au
that conditional to
gouvernement
any
Trudeau?
support
Ce que ça
for
veut
the,
dire, c'est ma position est
Trudeau
claire.
government?
Je suis contre.
What I said
Je vais
is that
continuer
my
d'être
position is
contre.
clear. I'm against. I will continue to be against, and I will continue to be against this project. Does it mean that you will refuse to support the government if they go ahead with Trans Mountain? It means that I'm against, and I will continue to be against. I will continue to be
Merci beaucoup.
against.
Merci pour les questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your questions.